The Final Goodbye, written by Robert Otone. When Vanderbilt County installed red light cameras at nearly every intersection in Resting Hollow, the folks in the town were divided on how to feel. On the one hand, it was important to enforce the law. Students from the local university often cruised through red lights late at night, and accidents could be high, especially in September when school was back in session. On the other hand, the tickets that were issued were around $175 a pop and were nearly impossible to fight. In the off chance that one was actually innocent, he or she would be out of luck. When a ticket arrived in Bradley Ellis's mailbox, he was surprised. He hadn't driven through any red lights as far as he could remember, but when he checked the address, he saw that it read Bart Ellis, his father. The only problem was, Bart Ellis passed away 6 months ago. It wasn't uncommon for Bart to get speeding tickets, and he certainly received his fair share of red light tickets since the program started. He always enjoyed taking a late-night cruise around Resting Hollow, first as a teenager in his 2-door coupe, then as an adult in more sensible vehicles befitting a family man. He would drive Bradley around as a baby to help him sleep at night. He always drove to families' houses and always enjoyed taking road trips. He was also a careful driver, outside of a few tickets for minor offenses. When Bradley opened the letter from the county, he studied the pictures that accompanied the ticket. There were 3. One was of the rear of the car, his father's Subaru, long since turned in to the dealership. Another was an extreme close-up of his father's license plate, attached to the back bumper of the vehicle. The third picture, that was the one that rattled him. A clear view of the windshield, his father behind the wheel, wearing the suit he was buried in. Bradley tucked the ticket into his back pocket and went inside. He had purchased his parents' home after his father passed away, and his mother had taken up residence in the guest cottage on the property, allowing Bradley to set up the house however he wanted. He walked into the backyard where his mother was gardening. She had always worked in the garden, his entire life, growing kale long before it was trendy to do so, and always having fresh tomatoes, cucumbers, and more. It was rare that she needed to buy the basic staple vegetables, as they grew plentiful for her during the seasons. Bradley didn't know if showing her the ticket was a good idea or not, so he kept it to himself. He looked over the garden she was working in, and thought it best to wait until he did some investigating into the ticket before revealing it to her. That afternoon, Bradley sat at the kitchen table staring at the ticket. He looked at his father's face and checked the date the pictures were taken. According to the county's record, the pictures were taken only a month ago. His father had passed away by then, so Bradley took out his phone and called the county to verify whether the ticket was a mistake or not. The woman on the other end of the phone was remarkably helpful and provided enough information to indicate that the ticket was, in fact, real. The pictures were taken at the stated time, on the stated date, and she was able to produce a short video clip which she emailed to him. In the video, Bradley's father's car slipped through the light late at night with no other traffic in the area. The video even had sound, and Bradley was able to hear the familiar purr of his dad's Subaru's engine as the SUV rolled through the light. He had heard that engine 1,000 times, a sharp contrast to the roar of Bradley's Chevy Tahoe. Bradley watched the video of his dad rolling through the red light about 30 times that night, sitting on the couch and drinking his usual Miller Lite while watching Hell's Kitchen reruns on his Roku. He couldn't focus on Gordon Ramsay screaming at incompetent chefs. Instead, he studied the photos and then watched the video, pausing when he could to make out his father's silhouette in the car. The video was clear, but the close-up of his father wasn't as good as the still image on the ticket. When Bradley went to bed that night, he cried, thinking about his father, about the cancer that took him, and the possibility of life after death. Bradley went to work the next morning and called the Subaru dealership at lunchtime. They informed him that the car was still on the lot, and they'd be happy to show it to him and provide paperwork and information to prove that nobody had driven the car outside of the occasional test drive. They were actually a little surprised they hadn't been able to sell it yet. No one's driven it off the lot for anything other than test drives around the block? No, sir. In fact, we can provide the mileage to you as well, the salesman at the dealership told him. Like I said, it's a bit of a mystery as to why it's still here. Our used cars typically fly off the lot. If you don't mind, could I come by and see it? Sure, of course. I'm here all day until close. Thanks, Bradley said, hanging up and returning to work. After work, Bradley headed to the Subaru dealership and met with the salesman he spoke to on the phone. Together, they walked to the Forester, which sat in a row of about 50 other SUVs, some Foresters, some not. Many were the same color, and many were the same exact model as his dad's. The salesman handed Bradley the key, told him he'd give him some time, and headed off to chat with a pretty, young salesperson Bradley spotted on his way in. In the Forester, Bradley settled in behind the wheel. The new car smell was there, but he picked up faint traces of his dad's cologne, Nautica Blue. Bradley stared off into the sea of vehicles around him, the Nautica overpowering him a bit. He felt his eyes welling up with tears and climbed out of the car. He walked quickly past the salesman, thanking him and telling him that he'd get in touch with him again if he needed to. In his own car, Bradley cried for the second time in 24 hours. The way his dad's SUV was parked, in such close proximity to the other cars, it would be impossible to slip the car out. There was only a few feet of space between the rows, and Bradley couldn't imagine the headache of moving the other cars to get it out for test drives, let alone spectral cruises through red lights. He sat, paralyzed, and watched as cars pulled in and out of the dealership parking lot. That night, unable to sleep, Bradley decided to go for a drive. He went over to where the camera ticket was taken, the corner of Orchard and Cicero, and waited. He checked his watch. He had about 40 minutes until the time of night, 3:25 a.m., that the photo was taken. The area was empty. He sipped a bagged can of Miller Lite absently and waited. Come on, Bradley whispered to himself. A car drove past, going through the intersection slowly, and turned down Cicero. Cicero led to the older part of town, where the houses were cheaper and land was being gobbled up by developers to turn into condos, apartments, and shopping centers. He finished his beer, then tore off a fresh one from the six-pack he'd picked up at 7-Eleven before arriving at the corner. Popping the tab, he took a hefty swig, some of the cold contents spilling down the sides of his mouth, down his chin. He lowered the can and looked around. Down Orchard, an SUV approached. Bradley paused and waited, holding his breath, scared to make a noise. He always thought the term, waiting with bated breath, was nonsense, but here he was, doing just that. The SUV approached. It was the right color. The streetlights and businesses lit the area well enough that he could tell the SUV was the right shade of gray-blue to match his dad's. As it rolled closer to the intersection, Bradley strained to see the make of the car. A Ford? No. Maybe a Land Rover? A Subaru. Bradley's eyes went wide as the car slowly cruised through the intersection, casually running the red light. Bradley knew another ticket would be issued. He expected a flash of the camera, but remembered that the cameras themselves didn't actually flash at all. Jumping out of the car, Bradley raced toward the intersection to get a look at the driver with his own eyes. "Dad?" he said, spotting his father behind the wheel. Gray-skinned, the same vacant look on his face. Bart turned slowly and stared at his son as the car passed through the intersection. When their eyes met, Bart's expression changed. Bradley, a range of emotion whipping through him, stood hyperventilating, confused and scared. Bart raised his hand and waved to his son, smiling widely. Bradley focused, and though his breathing was quick and frantic, fear and sadness taking him over, he raised his hand and waved back. He saw his father smile again and nod, acknowledging his presence. Bradley watched as the forester continued down the empty road, eventually vanishing into the night. He dropped to his knees and stared into space. The next morning, Bradley thought about what had happened the night before. He took out the camera ticket, cut a check, and mailed it back to the county, thinking about his father's smile and the simple moment they shared. That night, he decided to head back to the intersection at Orchard and Cicero. He waited patiently, sitting on the curb not far from his car, for the forester to arrive. Time moved slowly, and his patience began to wear. 3:25 a.m. came and went, and Bradley felt that it was all over. He knew that he wasn't going to see his father again, and he treasured that the wave and smile they shared with each other would be their final goodbye. Thanks everyone, and make sure to check out the author's other stories with the link down below. Have a great night everyone. Love, the Mistress.